role for Kent Union is, and maybe just like a fun fact about yourself or something people might not know. Okie dokie. So if we start off with Josh.
Give me no time to make a fun fact. Brilliant.
Spotlight.
Yeah. So I'm Josh, and I am the president. What is the fun fact? That was cruel. Okay. Maybe get back to me at the end.
Yeah, that's fine. I can come back for a fun fact. Better be a fun one. Aisha.
Hello everyone, I'm Aisha Dosand and I'm the VP Welfare and Community at Kent Union. And a fun fact about me is that I am a dancer. It's not that fun, but we move.
Thank you very much. Aldo?
Hello, my name is Aldo Manella and I'm the Vice President Student Engagement, and a fun fact about me is that I was going to start this meeting off by sitting in a bathtub.
That will definitely be an unusual background. Cool, thank you very much. Vicky?
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Vicky. I'm Vice President Academic Experience at Kent Union. Fun fact about me is probably pretty obvious, but Halloween is my favourite time of the year. I absolutely love it, and I'm massively basic because of it.
Brilliant. Pat?
Hello everybody, my name is Patrick. I am the VP Postgraduate Experience. A fun fact about me is I am a fencer.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much. Caroline?
Hiya, I'm actually Carolina, but a fun fact, I'm too lazy to change my name legally. And I'm the undergrad student position. I forgot the name, I'm so sorry. But basically I don't have a network, I'm just here because I want to be involved.
No, that's fine, thank you very much. So obviously this year it's been slightly changed. So we have got 8 open positions this year on the UBC. So 4 of those have gone to undergraduates and 4 have gone to postgraduates. So these are members who don't have the network, but are obviously still elected members. So thank you very much. James.
Yeah, hello, I'm James. I'm the open place member as undergraduate. And a fun fact on me is I'm also the president of the Conservation Society. And here's one of our wonderful caps. So there you go. Okay, thanks.
Love it. Love a bit of uni merch. Fantastic. Thank you very much, James. Joe. Okay, is Joe here? Okay, if not, we'll move on to Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise. I'm an open place undergraduate member as well. A fun fact about me is I've played guitar since I was 7.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Ramsey?
Yes, hi, I'm Ramsey. I'm one of the Open Place postgraduate representatives, and the fun fact about me is that although I'm doing a PhD, I've never attended high school. I dropped out of school and never went back. I just took an international baccalaureate afterwards, but yeah, never been to high school.
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much. Rachel, did I say that right?
Yes, you said that right. It's Rachel. Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm one of the postgraduate students on the committee without a network. And the fun fact is that my undergraduate thesis was studying a guild in World of Warcraft.
Wow, that's definitely a different one. Thank you very much. Becky?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Came up as Rebecca on the thing. Hi, I'm Becky. I've got one of the open place postgrad position things, and oh my god, fun fact. I study forensic psychology, but I've never actually done forensic psychology before.
Fair enough. Okie dokie. Selena? No. Okie dokie, if Celine's not here, Charlene?
Hi, I'm the BAME Network Chair for this year, and a fun fact about me is that I am Barbadian.
Okie dokie. Thank you very much. Abigail?
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm the chair network for the LGBTQs plus society. It's not society, chair. Fun facts about me. This is Craig, my dinosaur planter. I've kept him alive for more than 3 months, so I count that as a win. Yeah.
Fantastic. You did a lot better than me in trying to keep cap time first year. They didn't last 3 months. Rianne?
Hi, I'm Ria. I'm the chair for the Sustainability Network. Fun fact about me, I love animals and adventurous activities, hiking, scuba diving. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Paul?
Hello everyone, I'm Paul George. I'm the chair of the Accessibility Network for this year. Yeah, I'm a postgraduate law researcher, and a fun fact about me is that, I don't know, I recently bought myself a flute to annoy my neighbours.
Okay, that's fair enough. I also used to play the flute. Ree? Okay, Ree's not here. Is there anyone else representing the Sustainability Network? Nope. Okay.
So announced myself as chair for the Sustainability Network. I thought you already called my name. I'm not sure who you called before. You said Ria.
Okay. No, I don't think I did. Sorry. Okay, moving on. Sophie? Okay, Sophie's not here. Lucas?
Hello, I'm Lucas. I'm the chairman of Postgraduate Network, and a fun fact about me, that's the 4th country I'm living in.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Ethan?
Hi, I'm Ethan. I'm the chair of the Academic Network this year, and it depends on your definition of fun, but my fun fact is this is my 3rd year on UBC.
Brilliant, so a very experienced member. Thank you very much. I'm sorry for the pronunciation, but Mahishawan Warren? Chair of Team Kent.
So I'm Maheshwaran. I'm chair for Team Kent and International Network for this year. Fun fact is my battery's about to die in another 10 minutes, and I play frisbee and I practice MMA.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you very much. So the representative for the International Network in that case, Sebastian?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sebastian. I've got my camera off because my internet always crashes when I turn it on. But yes, I'm Sebastian. I'm representing the International Network. And a fun fact about me is that I'm actually a member of 3 networks this year.
Wow, very busy indeed. Thank you very much. And last but my name is Lise Benjamin.
Hiya, I'm Ben, the network chair for mature and part-time students. Fun fact, I volunteer with Greenpeace, so you might sometimes see me on Canterbury High Street doing some weird and wonderful things.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Right, is there any other UEC member attending tonight who I haven't given a chance to introduce yet?
Connor, if we just go and cover Rianne for the Women's Network, I think Joe's for Open Places now got his mic working, and then Selena is also now here.
Fantastic. If we start with Rianne then.
Hi, I'm Rian. I'm the chair for this year's Women's Network, and a fun fact about me is that I'm Welsh.
Thank you very much. Okie dokie. Back to Joe.
Hey, I'm Joe, and I'm the open head for undergrad. And a fun fact about me is last year I got deported from Serbia, and I'm not allowed there until the 16th of March. So
Oh, okay. Won't ask the reason why. Thank you very much. And sorry, who was the other position I missed?
Selena.
Sorry, Selena, go for it.
Hiya, really quickly, my name is Selena. I'm a postgrad studying reproductive medicine. Fun fact about me, I guess, is that I'm a twin and I have a twin brother. So yeah, thank you.
Nice, thank you very much. Okie dokie. So thank you all just for introducing yourselves. Oh, just to go back to Josh, what was your fun fact?
Well, one of them is that I was in a car crash, which had a policeman who saw it, saw the guy was on his phone when he hit into me, and then let him go. That's my fun fact. That crime does pay. And he got off of it.
Okay. Thank you very much. No, that was definitely an interesting.
It cost me 300 quid. I'm very angry about it.
Okie dokie. So thank you very much, guys. So just to briefly go over what the agenda will be for this evening. We're going to start off with an amendment by Josh to the union bylaws. So we will go through the procedure for that in a minute. After that, we will then be having general updates from you guys. So if you've got any updates on any of the work you're doing in your networks or otherwise, and that'll be a chance to share that. Then for anyone who's observing tonight who isn't a UEC member, you will then have the opportunity to ask any questions of any of the officers that you want to, and just raise any business that you feel you want to. Then we are going to finish off with a discussion on the online teaching quality for this year and whether students are getting value for money. And then we'll conclude tonight with obviously any other business and just an open forum as per normal. Okie dokie. So to start off with, I'll go to the notes I made earlier. So I will now invite Josh for the first item to put forward the proposed amendment to the bylaws for DP3 and DP4. So over to you, Josh.
Okay, cheers. So I'll just explain what it does. It allows for members of UEC to propose policy, which will then be followed by the union, as after following a procedure that every proposal first needs to be seconded by a third of the UEC, and then it needs to be passed by a vote by the support of 2/3. So basically that just allows, it goes beyond and gives the members of this democratic institution the power to make change without having to go around individually and asking particular stakeholders. It allows for it to become part of the direction of the union and gives, I think, a purpose to this institution for the future, that most and all procedures are made in one place and it makes the members accountable to those decisions and what they vote on. Yeah, I think it's easier to answer it in terms of questions rather than the amendment itself. Nice and brief. I'm done. Hello? Connor, you're muted yourself.
That was smart of me. Okie dokie. So, sorry guys. So just as a reminder, so if you want to obviously participate or anything like that, if you could just raise your hand by electronically, that'd be really good. So what I will do is I'll just see if there's a seconder for the proposal. If anyone wants to second that, if you could just raise your virtual hand. Brilliant. I see Ramsey and I see Rachel. Thank you very much. Okay.
just to quickly say, sorry to interrupt. There should be 2 seconds on the proposal itself as well.
Pardon?
Doesn't it say seconded by Vicky and Pat?
Yeah, so on the proposal itself, it does have a copy of who's proposing, but just for the purpose of debate, you just need 2 proposers from the meeting itself. So on the actual amendment itself has been seconded by Vicky and Patrick. Okie dokie. Is there anyone who opposes the motion at all? Okay. Okay, I don't see any UC members opposing the motion. So what I will do is I will now indicate 10 minutes for general debate or any additional points to be made on the proposal. So if anyone wishes to add anything, please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see anyone raising their hands. Oh, go for it, Sebastian.
Sorry, just because this is my first meeting, it's not something to add, but I just wanted to quickly ask, can you just like really briefly explain how this changes what the existing policy was? Because my understanding of this when I had to read through it is just that now members of the committee can bring proposals to the committee for discussion. How is that different than it used to be? Did it used to be that people weren't allowed to discuss things at these meetings, like proposals?
Josh?
Okay, I get that. Basically, it allows for policy to be brought forward and voted on by the members that are attending. So it gives basically a popular mandate to decisions in this in the UEC to allow for networks to coordinate with each other to put forward their own proposals in a open arena of discussion.
Okay, so it used to be that like networks couldn't bring policy forward.
There was the Change It version, which
okay, I see. Okay, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Tom has obviously his hand up and he'll be able to explain.
I'll just invite Tom because I believe that might be a point of information. Tom, go for it.
Sure. Just for reference, I'm Tom. I'm the Deputy Head of Representation and Democracy, so staff member. So I'm only providing a point of information just for reference. So previously, or the current policy, but what Josh is hoping to change today is that if a member of UEC wanted to put forward a proposal, they previously would have had to go through the same process that any other student would want to or have to go through to submit a policy. So a UEC member would have to go through the Change It process first, as a non-UEC member would have to, and get at least 50 votes on a policy before it could come to UEC for formal approval and voting. Josh's proposal bypasses that process effectively so that UEC members, elected UEC members, don't have to go through Change It first. They can just bring proposals directly to the meeting as long as they have a 1/3 kind of support from UEC members themselves. So it's just to ease and make it easier for members to put forward policy proposals. But previously, any member or any student could put through proposals, they just had to go through Change It first. So that's a reference.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot more sense. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Cool, brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. Carolina, I see your hand.
Does this mean that we are getting rid of Change It, or is that still going to remain for non-UEC members?
Yeah, it's Change It still exists and it will still be there. It's so basically the purpose of it is to fulfill that on wider issues which will have a lot of importance and a lot more a wider dispersion of interest. That's where Change It comes, that's where Change It's best. But for network members that may not have the most support or engagement from those obviously outside of the UEC or union policy, it makes it so that the important issues that may not get to 50 votes on Change It can be put forward in this area, which can still have a legitimate mandate, but just in a different version.
Okay, thanks.
Fantastic. Any other points for discussion anyone wants to raise? Okie dokie. I don't see any more. Joseph, go for it.
Practically, how would it work? So would it be a case of I submit a proposal like this meeting or next meeting, or what would be the practicalities of member submission? Entry.
Okay. So you'd have to. I think actually the best person, because for the point of information Tom raised before, it probably makes for the best outline, knowing his knowledge of the bylaws, it makes most sense for Tom. If you'd like to explain that, or I can continue.
Tom, are you happy to jump in on that?
Yes, sorry. So that's just to clarify how the process would work going forward if this proposal was to be implemented. Yes. Yep. So effectively, it can just be that a member submits a proposal in advance of a union executive committee meeting with 8 other members of UEC, putting forward that motion that can then be added to the next agenda. Or it could potentially be that in a meeting, a member puts forward a proposal going forward. And as long as they've got 7 other members in the room that support them, then it can move on to a formal discussion. So that's roughly how it would work going forward. Hopefully that provides a bit more clarity.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant. Okie dokie. Is there any other points? Okay, if there's no more hands, we will then move to a vote. So if I could just ask anyone who's not in the UEC, obviously it's only members voting on this one. So if you could just keep your hands lowered, that'd be amazing. So what I will do is I'll just invite Josh to make any final points he wants to before the vote.
Yeah, I'd just say that this is an opportunity just to give importance to this place and the beginning of further democratic reforms that we can do together.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much. So what I'll now do is was that just a question? How can you become a member? Sorry, I'm just going to view this question in the chat. Melissa, Tom, do you just want to pick up that question? How do you become a member of UEC? I believe that is.
Yeah, I've messaged back in the chat, but just for reference for any students in attendance who aren't members. So obviously the 5 full-time elected officers are members, and their elections take place each year in March. And then we have a number of other positions, so the open place positions as well as network positions, and those are elected at different points of the year. This year they were all elected in September, but in the past they have been at different points. So whenever those elections take place this year for next academic year, we'll make sure they're clearly advertised for students. We do currently have 1 vacancy on UEC, and that is for the Faith Network. So if you were interested in potentially getting involved to run the Faith Network and therefore become a UEC member, if you just drop us an email at kentunion@kent.ac.uk, and we'll be able to kind of look into running a by-election for that position.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Tom. Okay, so what I will do now is I'll call upon all UEC members to indicate whether they vote yes, no, or they are abstaining from the vote. So what I want you to do is when I say yes, if you could just raise your hands, and then me and Tom will then count them, and then we'll put them back down, no's, etc. Okay. So what I'll do now is I'd ask for anyone who wants to vote yes for the amendment, please raise your hands now. And I will just give Tom a minute to count those up. So just as a point of information, the required threshold for a vote will be 13 members, be half plus 1. Thank you very much. Do you have all of those, Tom?
Yeah, there's at least 21 members out of the 23 who have voted for it.
Fantastic. So if I could just ask anyone who's put a hand up, if you could pop it down. So just to make sure we've given everyone a chance to record their position. Carolina, could you just pop your hand down? Thank you. Any UC members positioning themselves as no? Okay, I'll take that as no one. And then any abstentions, if you could raise your hand. Okay, I see 2 abstentions. Thank you very much. So obviously the amendment passes with 21 votes. Okie dokie. So thank you all very much. And with that, we will move on to the next item on the agenda then, which will be general updates from UEC members. So what I'll do is for this section, I'll just ask any of the officers to come forward with any updates they have from their networks or just their general activities. So I will call the officers in the order in which they appear on this list. So if I start off with Josh.
Okay, going first. So it's quite broad. So you mean just stuff I've generally been up to?
Yeah, actually, I might just rework how we do this slightly. If there's any officers who do have any updates they want to give, if you just raise your hand, I'll just call you that way. That might be the easiest thing. So any updates from officers, just raise your hand. Pat, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Connor. I was thinking actually perhaps the first option was a little bit better rather than we do all have updates. We gave an update to the board today as well. So I see no reason why we couldn't sort of go through sort of a similar thing with this. This is, as a remodel of UEC, is also supposed to act as a officer scrutiny opportunity as well. So feel free when any of us have finished our little updates to ask us any questions or make any suggestions of things that you feel you should be working on, bring anything to our attention. A lot of the things that we do throughout the year are informed by student feedback such as this. So yeah, please make the most of that opportunity and continue to do so as these meetings go on. Yeah, I'd like to start with a sort of quick introduction. So just a reminder, I'm the Postgrad VP. I kind of see this role as a combination of Vicky's, Aisha, Vicky and Aldo, but with a postgrad focus. So I work on postgrad welfare issues, on the academic experience of postgrads, and as well as the student life side of things. So far this year, we've been working on doing more postgrad events. You would have noticed the postgrad coffee mornings we've been running. Towards the end of the term, we've got a few more planned. Even tomorrow night, we have a postgrad Halloween pub quiz, which we're running alongside Zoe from the KGSA. We are working on getting more postgrad events throughout the year. So me and Aisha are sort of looking towards having a sort of postgrad walk, so like a well-being walks pack put together. That's what we're working on recently. Now on the academic side of things, been on 3 boards this week. Well, 1 Kent Union board, but 2 academic boards this week. At the postgrads and the graduate and research college board was on Tuesday. One of the things that sort of came up earlier in the week regarding that was funding cuts in arts and humanities. So I raised that with the director of division. He's going to take that back to his division and see if we can get more funding for postgrads in that division, as well as clearer communications for postgrads in that division. So that went very well. On a wider scale thing, throughout this year, I'll be focusing on postgrad supervisor relationships. So often postgrads have troubles with the supervisors, those on researchers. So I'll be looking to get sort of surveys out, looking to get focus groups, put together feedback so we can try and inform the Graduate College Board in February. Yeah, I think that's kind of a rough update of what I've been up to. Like I said, I've been posting stuff on Facebook, so if you are a postgrad or you are generally interested in what I'm doing, then add me on Facebook. It's not a problem. And yeah, if you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to bring to my attention, please do get in touch. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, thank you very much, Pat. And just to add on to a point earlier, we will have an allocated point for any questions anyone has that will just come after the update. So obviously anyone who has questions, please ask then. Thank you very much. Aisha.
Hi everyone. So very luckily, as Pat mentioned, we did our update earlier today. So excuse me while I read some of the things on here. The most important things that I've been working on is to diversify mental health and wellbeing support. And so that has included the hiring of 2 BAME mental health advisors, and they're now in post. So if you are looking to get a mental health advisor from Student Support and Wellbeing that is specifically a person of colour, for example for racial trauma, or if it just makes you feel more comfortable, then you are very welcome to do so. It also includes more mental health and wellbeing events for students of colour, and we recently had a webinar on resilience and self-worth and succeeding in higher education institutions, and that was really exciting to get a lot of interactive feedback from students on what they'd like to see at the university. I've been working with Student Support and Wellbeing to talk about the creation of therapeutic groups for Black and South Asian women in particular, but that is definitely going to broaden out as we see how successful that is, and we get a lot more feedback for how useful that will be, and a lot more attendance online. So the events that we held specifically for Black History Month have seen a lot of engagement. So it's been a really good push to have a lot more stuff online, and that includes things like webinars, and we can get external speakers in at a cheaper price. So that is a really exciting initiative to be a part of. I've also been trying to work with estates and commercial services on accessibility on campus and online, and there's the potential to work with the local council on reviewing the streets in the high street. A lot of people know that it's full of cobbles and it can be quite difficult to walk on them, but also just some easy routes and the potential to have like refuge points. And this isn't to take away from Josh's refuge points, this is completely different. I just haven't found out a different name to call them, but just so that it's a lot easier for disabled students to access the high street and access the surrounding area in Canterbury as well as on campus. I've been working with certain student groups as well as Mark Arnold, who is the head of security, to follow up on some of the issues with the protests on campus back in March, and whatever happened over lockdown all kind of blends into one. So that's been very exciting, and we're following up on allowing students to join patrols as well as join one of the biggest police groups in Canterbury, so they can help give the police a student understanding of how they feel safe. So that'll be really good. And then we've been working with certain cultural groups and the Afro-Diasporic Legal Network, who came together to create a solidarity and demand statement, and we've been slowly working through these. It's a very ongoing process, and trying to get the executive group of the uni to do some of these things has been really difficult, but hopefully there's lots we can update you on soon. We've also been working on additional financial support during COVID-19, including the creation of the COVID-19 Hardship Fund, and I've been working to ensure that students in student accommodation on campus and off campus are receiving fair treatment and they know that their legal rights during the pandemic. So I waffled a bit, but those are the main things that I've been working on. So let me know if you have any questions later.
I do not mind going next.
I keep on doing that. Apologies. Aldo.
It's fine. The joys of Microsoft Teams. So here's my update. So I'll start with social media side of things. On the KU officer side of things, we've been working to make sure that our social media is as best as it can be, hopefully with the idea of it being a framework to follow for other platforms. So we've adopted many link and various confessions and trying to engage with new ways of talking to students, especially in this COVID era. I've also spoken with various people in Marcoms about the establishment of new channels that will allow the desaturation of the Kent Union page. This will include an activities channel, a Team Kent channel, and then respective channels for the networks, although this is an ongoing talk. It's imperative that we get these communications and all of this stuff done right. At the moment, we have a problem, not so much a problem, rather consideration that we don't believe some of our student groups are using the NHS track and trace. This is monitored through the university. It's an official one. It's not just a Kent Union version. And so it's been a question of maybe they don't know where the resources are on our website. So we've included that in our new email signatures. And moving forward, we're going to make sure that people know where all of our resources are in the most effective way possible. And following on from this, I am putting together an engagement survey that will be going out very soon. It's going to be able to highlight what forms of social media people would like to use the most and what kind of content they'd like in those places. And then moving on to my next part that I've been working on, more the sports side of things with Kent Sport and the gym. So right now we're talking about what's happening in terms of the opening hours and the memberships. It seems to be a back and forth always about membership prices going down, going up. On the Kent Sport side of things, obviously, because they are operating at a reduced capacity due to COVID, I am championing and really trying to get them to push to have better opening hours, starting with the weekend, with the avenue that maybe this increases throughout the week. And fortunately, because of the work that Emily Window did, my predecessor, I have a lot of data that I can use to have a supplementary investigation that's going to involve student consolidation to highlight whether the priorities have changed, stayed the same, and what Kent Sport should be doing to offer the best service to our students as well as our sports teams. And then lastly, I will talk about the Midway student voice. One of my key things that I've been really trying to get to work in Midway at the moment is an officer, a full-time officer, to be in place for the next year. This is something that's shared by other members of the officer team as well. And right now, I'm delighted to say that with the work I've put in as the lead Midway officer, as well as my Greenwich counterpart, it's become, it's demonstrated a complete necessity for an officer on the Midway campus. And this was the first stage. With university structures and plans in the future forever changing, it would be right to assume that we don't know what the future of Midway holds, but nonetheless, the student voice has to be championed and has to be upheld. So moving forward, I'll be making sure that there is a sustainable strategy for Midway students in the future to become Midway officers, and each Midway officer, because one of the problems we're faced at the moment is that each Midway lead officer, so myself and my Greenwich counterpart, we have our own priorities, we have our own agendas, and of course there are logistical problems as well, being from two different respective home unions. And so we really want to make sure that the next officer, our successors, really have that autonomy. So that's what I've been working on. Sorry if I waffled a bit as well. And sorry if I have a telephone voice, as I was highlighted earlier.
Literally, I keep on doing that. I don't know why. Thank you very much, Aldo. Back to Josh.
Excellent. Okay, so I'll go through a quick review and also some stuff that I'm thinking of going ahead with soon as part of some wider change. Okay, so to start with then, we're trying to get a intern to give them some experience to work on some of our social media platforms, and then to continue and give some more detail on some posts I've been doing recently. It's to do with safety routes and refuge centres. So I just realised I haven't got my camera on. Okay, so what this means is that it doesn't feel the safest walking in and out of town, and we're basically trying to connect all the safety services we have along the main thoroughfares into town and back to make the whole experience obviously, feel safer and more secure. Additionally, on top of that, we will be making refuge centres, which are landmarks that you can go to if you don't feel safe, such as Canterbury West, just if you need to immediately get out of the way. And the next one is cultural identity reform. So basically, we've noticed a bit that a problem with the university is we don't feel there's a tendency to not feel as a part of it as possibly in other universities. So in that being that in some cases colleges and places where you study, they just feel like places where you study. So it's going beyond that to try and make it so that students can really leave their mark on where they study, so that when they come back or when they think about it, they can know that they did this or they're a part of this and part of a larger identity. Then also going to Inform Kent. It is basically trying to make the tool work better. Obviously everything can do better, and make it so that it's firstly optimized for different media channels and make less of a clunky user experience to get right into it. Then building name review. There is Keynes, for example, who was a supporter of eugenics, which obviously in our modern times it's not really acceptable anymore that it can go unchallenged. So we're bringing in or the movement is to bring in educational process, which first makes people aware of what he did, the good and the bad, then potentially making it the Keynes and another academic's name or someone of note, and then going to a potentially, if those two processes are both accepted, going to rename the building based on a referendum. The next one is mental health support. So obviously everyone is aware of how mental health, particularly now, is deteriorating. Me and Aisha, as well as some staff, are working to make a booklet to give out to students, combining both the University of Kent and Kent Union's mental health support services, as well as potentially bringing in more measures and asking students what they'd really like to see. So this should be coming up hopefully next week. We're just trying to make sure that it's a really easily accessible thing to use. And the last thing I'll just say on terms of updates is November. I'm working with some it's the November ambassadors to put on some events to try and educate as well as fundraise for quite an important issue. Obviously now that we've got about 30 members here, 30 plus members, thought I'd ask for some more direct student feedback. So one of them, part of the first proposal was to try and make the democratic structures we use more transparent and easily understandable to the student who may not know what's going on or may not want to. So the first one is a simple thing, is just renaming this institution from the UEC, which is obviously it's quite an inaccessible name that you obviously have to know what it means to know what it does. So to change the name to Kent Parliament or Kent Union Parliament, so it also gives more credence to what we do and why we're here. To obviously, with the last reform that obviously we passed just now, that students can legislate for themselves and put forward their own policy and really be student-led. And then secondly, with transparency, it's obviously not enough just to rename it, and it doesn't do enough. So next is to go beyond and potentially use social media platforms exclusively in the niche of student voice, such as what, you know, with this one of talking about what the agenda is, give some highlights, obviously in a impartial way, to say what has happened, and really show the faces of the members to people who wouldn't otherwise know what's going on. They're just some of those last two are an example of where I'd like to see this institution going. And obviously those two, I'd really like to see some, you know, obviously student feedback on that beyond what I've heard already, and to see what other reasons and ways we can improve this institution for the, obviously during and after this year.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much, Josh. And I'll pass over to you, Vicky.
I'm firstly going to apologise for any background noise. My sister is currently next door in a interesting talk with Neil Gaiman, so hopefully it's not too loud and you can't hear it. But yes, on to my updates. I think it's no surprise that, as my title suggests, academic experience is everything to do with academics and education, and a large part of my work in the last 6 months has been around the move to online learning, the decision around online exams, and trying to give lecturers the sort of best training that they can have to give you online learning. I'm not going to dwell on this too much because we do have a section specifically later for sort of feedback and questions around that. I would just like to say, as sort of a hot off the press, this decision was literally made yesterday at Education Student Experience Board, but the university has committed to offering a blended learning approach where possible, due to changes for next term, as well as committing to online exams for this year, which is fantastic news. I think it means that we have much more flexibility in sort of the teaching and learning that we can offer. Obviously, we know that this isn't working for everyone, and we'd love to hear feedback later on. But aside from online learning, because I could sit here and talk about it for probably 3 hours, also at yesterday's Education Student Experience Board meeting, the approach to embedding sustainability in the curriculum was approved, which means that we are able to go ahead with planning for embedding the Sustainable Development Goals as set out in the course that we signed up to earlier on this year, and we can embed those in learning outcomes as well as in the graduate attributes, and start to have student and staff champions in different schools and different divisions to really push forward the sort of Sustainable Development Goals that should be entrenched in sort of our everyday learning and life. So I'm really glad that that's sort of come to pass, and we can sort of carry on with that. And if you want to get involved, please message me, because I will need all the help I can get to embed this. A couple of other things that I've been working on have been around the setting up of a new medical society and trying to embed the new rep system in the medical school, which I think is going very well at the minute. The medical school is brand new this year, so it's been really great to see the sort of enthusiasm come from them, and to see this new academic society really sort of kick off. As well as also we've changed the rep system more generally. Some of you will have noticed we've got teams of reps this year as opposed to individual reps with individual courses. Teams approach seems to be working really well. Myself and Pat met with nearly 300 of our reps last week. We currently have just over 500 reps, which is many more than we had in the last couple of years. And you can still get involved if you want to be a rep as well as a network chair, or if anybody in the audience wants to be a rep. I promise I won't just keep plugging it all night, but we're really proud of how it's sort of going, and we're sort of developing the training alongside the reps based on what they need, and the new divisional structure. I might quickly touch on the new divisional structure because technically it goes live on Monday, so you shouldn't see many changes on a support basis. But I have spent the last sort of 2 months working with schools and divisions to make sure that the support structures that you guys see and are given are the same, so that you won't ever have sort of a area of academic support that's lacking. This change sort of had a lot of blind spots to it, I think, and I've tried to really highlight those to the university to make sure that you as students won't ever feel the change, but should hopefully benefit from it. It's been been a difficult road, but we've got there in the end. And I guess the final thing that I really want to highlight is I will be continuing the work this year to try and implement a winter assessment period. That phrase is a bit scary, but I think as we've seen from last year, the sort of structure in place at university doesn't allow for students to have done assessments before the end of the year. And obviously a pandemic is hopefully a once in a lifetime situation. But there are other things that get in the way that means that if you don't have those assessments midway through the year, a lot of students miss out. So I'll be looking at doing consultations and working with students to try and work out what that might look like and how that might affect different subjects. And with the hope that that could be approved implementation in the next couple of years. And I think that's everything.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Vicky. Just before we move on to open questions, is there any part-time officers who want to give any quick updates? If not, we will move on to public questions. So this is for both UBC members and for anyone who is observing the meeting today. So I will just call you out in the order you appear. So if when you say your question, you could just say which officer it's directed to, that would be brilliant. So we'll start off with Rachel.
Sorry, I realized just as you called my name that this might be the wrong time of the meeting. I was hoping to bring up some topics to talk about in terms of, on the agenda, it talked about online learning and the value of our education. Is that for after this section, or is that right now? Okay, then never mind, I don't have a question, sorry.
Don't worry, we'll be having that discussion after the public questions, so don't worry. Cool. Any questions for any of our officers at all? Hamish.
Hiya. Yes, so I'm a student at UKC last year. I was just going to ask a question to Aldo. You spoke about the track and trace system for the NHS. How are you going, if students are not kind of using the track and trace system, how are you going to try and like allow students to kind of enforce students to use it? That's kind of my question.
No, of course. I'd like to start by saying we don't want to enforce anything because that's no, of course. We're not trying to be like that sort of police presence. We are trying to reinforce the positive behaviours. You know, it really is about the considerations of others. And when we do see that the forms aren't handed in and we get word of societies having events and stuff, we do have to crack down on it. So rather than it being a sort of getting students to do it, we don't want to be putting students in a position where they can't have their events and they can't socialise. So it is an error on our behalf. I'd like to admit that we haven't perhaps been pushing and being transparent enough with those communications, hence why we've had to put them in the other way. So yeah, I guess it's just going to be more of a communicated thing. In my update tomorrow, I'm going to be putting it out about where the form is, and I'd like to hope that throughout all of the new communications that go out, the signature is really helpful. It's just about stressing the importance of the fact that this is an official one that does go to the NHS, it goes to the university, it helps us keep our numbers as accurate as possible. And I also would like to stress that we need to make sure that students are filling it out properly. You know, people saying they're having an event outside isn't necessarily the most accurate way. So perhaps we have to re-engage with the form, but no, we really do have to keep pushing the fact that we are in this together, to quote High School Musical.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Hamish. Paul George.
Yeah, I just have two very short questions to Asia. First of all, yeah, the accessibility stuff for the high street sounds amazing. I also was just wondering if we could have some sort of closer collaboration with the student support and wellbeing, just in making the social distancing provisions on campus more accessible. Just because me and also I know of another person from the accessibility network had to now just go back home because it was just not anymore viable for us to stay on campus, just because you know, the hand sanitizers have only foot pedals, which is not usable for wheelchair users, or the one-way direction arrows on the floor of the library are not like tactile, so like I as a blind student you know, lost. And it would just be great for, you know, for the future, for the next month, maybe even early next year, just to have a closer connection to SSW and just working together with them on solutions and involve disabled students in the process.
Yeah, thank you. That is a really great idea, and hopefully we can have a meeting with the Accessibility Network soon so that we can do this kind of collaboration. I mean, it is sort of that kind of, we do things first and then think about accessibility. So I definitely think that these conversations will be very helpful, considering we have no idea how long social distancing will last.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And just my second question would just be, because I love that we try to diversify the mental health counselling, and just for myself, I'm doing counselling right now, and I don't know if I mean, it would be great if we could consider maybe looking for, you know, hiring counsellors that have a disability or have experience in just, you know, talking to disabled people, because sometimes I just have the feeling to be, you know, to just generally have to explain my entire life again, and, you know, what I've been through and all that stuff. And it would just be nice to have someone who is maybe, you know, that has more, I don't know, experience, or can easier put themselves into my shoes, for example.
Thank you very much. That's an extremely good point. And ultimately, we just want to make students feel more comfortable when they're accessing support. So thank you. These are all really valuable points that I'll be bringing back.
Thank you. I know that was everything. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Paul George. Benjamin.
Hiya. So this is sort of partly as an update as mature and part-time student network chair, but also as an open question to everyone as well. One of the things I want to look into this year is council tax exemption. So this is normally available to full-time students. So if you're sort of a single student living in Canterbury or outside of university, you can have a council tax exemption and pay nothing. But it's not open to part-time students. I found out recently that at least for Canterbury City Council, they said you have to be taking at least 65 credits a year to be considered full-time. And obviously, as you probably know, many part-time students would do 60 credits a year as being half of the 120. So it's something that I want to try and bring up maybe with Canterbury City Council and other local councils, because we have lots of students in sort of Ashford, Maidstone, Dover, Deal, Ramsgate and other areas. But this is more of an open question at the moment, just for anyone else, if you know of any issues with council tax exemptions that are going on with other students, and in particular with part-time students as well. Thank you. I'll also put my email address in the chat as well, so if you want to get in touch that way, you can do.
Brilliant, thank you, Benjamin. Did you want any of the officers to follow up on that, on anything you said at all? Because you said it was open question.
Only in particular if they know of any issues, or if other students have come forward at all saying sort of similar things, or that kind of thing. So,
brilliant. I think, Pat, do you have something to add with Benjamin?
Yeah, hi Ben. Thanks for bringing it up actually. So I had some chats with some postgrads earlier in the week about this actually, not part-time, but about council tax. So the other thing that's come up regarding it is that it seems that if you stay in Canterbury over the summer, for example, and you move from doing your undergrad to doing your postgrad in that same year, you're eligible for a month's council tax, or a month and a half council tax, 6 weeks, for the duration between graduating from your undergrad and actually starting your postgrad, because during that time you're technically not a student, effectively. So it seems to me that there are wider issues around it, which would mean that, you know, in terms of lobbying Canterbury City Council, we could certainly build support, but it also seems like the kind of thing that would certainly need to be looked at sort of almost a national level. So we've tried to get in touch with the NUS on a few occasions. I'm sure Josh will testify. It's not they're not the most responsive. but certainly we can start to build a case for it. I think your point about 60 credits versus 65 credits is the kind of thing that could easily be changed. And obviously there are discounts on council tax already in place for various government schemes. If you live with part-time with full-time students, you get a discount for council tax. To me, it doesn't seem unreasonable that part-time students should be entitled to a reduction on the council tax, and perhaps even that those who are moving straight from their undergrad to their postgrad and remaining in the same city, as obviously that's why they're still there, should also at least be entitled to a reduction. So perhaps me and you could meet sometime this week to sort of chat about some of the issues and think about how we can start moving forward on that.
Yeah, that sounds a good idea. Thank you. I think one of the big things is really that obviously they've put that extra 5 credits onto their stipulation just to stop part-time students from getting the exemption.
Yeah,
it's 5 credits. But I think very much as well that most people choose to be part-time students, not everyone, but most choose to be so because they have other family or financial commitments, work commitments and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily that a part-time student is in a better financial situation than the full-time one. It's because they have other commitments at home going on as well. So I think a lot of part-timers have the same kind of finances as full-time students do.
Yeah, so, I completely agree. Well, yeah, I'll drop you an email and we'll get something in place and we can start some discussions there.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, both. Is there any final questions anyone wants to ask before we move on to the discussion on online teaching? Rachel, go for it. Was this about the online teaching or was it a question?
About online teaching. Oh, sorry, I misheard.
No, it's okay. We are literally just about to move on to that. Selena.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One regarding the Kent Sport. So my question is, I'm a postgraduate. I'm speaking to a lot of graduates that are living currently in Chaucer College, so down the road from university, and they wanted to find out whether it'd be possible for the free membership for Kent Sport to be extended to those living there. I said it's quite unlikely, to be honest, but I thought I'd raise it anyway. So that's my first question.
Was there a particular person you wanted to direct that to?
Oh, it's Aldo, sorry.
Yeah, I can jump in on this.
Go for it.
So I've had a very similar request come through recently, and I'm following it up with Kent Sport to explore the possibility. It would likely mean anything moving forward would likely have to go through the letting agent of this individual, as it is an agreement with accommodation themselves and estates. So it's been flagged and I'm going to raise it and I can update in the next one likely. However, I would like to stress that it is incredibly unlikely.
I thought as much, thank you. My second question is for Aisha, and I guess Patrick as well, because it's for postgraduates. I was speaking to a couple of postgraduates on my course, and we wanted to know if there's any particular funding available for postgraduates in the, obviously with COVID being right now, they wanted to find if there's any support they can get financially. So yes, that's my question. Thank you.
Okay, Aisha?
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't believe there is postgraduate specific funds available. However, if you are struggling financially, you're very welcome to apply for the COVID-19 hardship fund or the ALF fund. I'll post it in the chat once I finally remember what it stands for. But those are 2 funds that you're available to access as a postgraduate student as well.
Brilliant. And Pat?
Yeah, I agree with Aisha. Yeah, it's just the Access to Learning Fund and obviously the COVID Hardship Fund are 2 available funds which are for postgrads as well. I would suggest also perhaps contacting your school's support office and maybe even the Student Support and Wellbeing Service, because they'll be better placed to direct you to any sort of more sort of streamlined services. But again, it's the kind of thing that we can take forward with the university and the grad school as well. And seeing if we can get something moving there. But yeah, thank you for raising that.
Brilliant. Okay, and I'll take one final question from Abby.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to discuss as like an open thing really quickly with the officers. But with within the LGBTQ plus network, we've had discussions with students and also the society themselves, and they raised a lot of issues regarding transgender people's rights. So such as gender neutral bathrooms around campus, and we were just wondering, as a network, what we have to do to basically get more gender neutral bathrooms and other things regarding like transgender people's rights into, I guess, discussion with you guys, really, just to see where we can start on that. So, anyone, please.
Vicky, do you want to pick that up?
Yeah, I know that this is Aisha's remit, but to sort of update you on what happened maybe last year as well. So Omalade, as well for last year, worked a lot with estates, especially in the library, and Emily was working quite closely with Kent Sport to introduce gender neutral toilets. And unfortunately, a lot of those projects were due to happen over the summer, and they were pushed off or put on hold because of the fact that they stopped all, or universities made the decision to stop all infrastructure changes due to coronavirus. So those projects are there, sort of ready to be picked up again. And so, I mean, I imagine the other officers are more than happy to have that conversation with you. We can sort of sit down and talk about properly sort of what your ideas are about pushing that to the forefront. But those conversations sort of have been happening. A lot of them were just put on hold, unfortunately.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay, Aisha, anything you want to add?
Yeah, Vicky said it so well, and it's really unfortunate that these kind of things have been deprioritised, because to a lot of students it is a massive priority. But definitely in terms of smaller things such as protests, organisations, charities you want to get involved with, fundraising, things like that, you're very welcome to talk to me, and hopefully we'll have a meeting maybe next week or the week after, and we can discuss the sort of things that you can do right now instead of having to wait for estates and things like that.
Perfect, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you very much, guys. I'm afraid we are just going to have to move on in the interest of time. So any other questions, I'm sure you can pick up with the officers individually, or if we've got time at the end, we'll come back to them. So we'll now move on to the discussion on online teaching. So if I go to Vicky to start that off.
Yeah, I'm probably not actually going to say too much on it, because I think this is going to be genuinely a time for you guys to give as much feedback as you want. Maybe just to say that obviously I gave those updates about next term and the future of online learning at Kent, but that the university do have contingency plans, obviously, depending on how the situation ends up in Canterbury, due to like obviously the mixture of face-to-face and online learning, and also that we know, or I know, the systems that the university has put in place are not perfect, they are not infallible, and I know for a lot of people it sort of feels like it's been very rushed into it, but if you've got any feedback, doesn't matter how big, small, could be as petty as you like, just give it to us, because we need it, and we will try our best to take it to the university to make the change.
Thank you very much. Rachel, go for it.
Thank you. Sorry to be so eager. So I'm a MA student in the School of Anthropology and Conservation. I'm a humanitarian and environmental crisis student, which is just a lot to say that I end up chatting with a lot of students all over the anthropology, archaeology, or anthropology and environmental and ethnobotany groups. And a lot of us have been discussing, you mentioned that the university was going to be putting forth more blended learning opportunities for spring term. I know that obviously coronavirus and infection rates dictate what can actually occur in time. And obviously as postgraduate students, we're used to having to learn how to be flexible. But blended learning was heavily advertised, at least for the School of Anthropology for the fall term, and hasn't been available, even though, for example, some of our course sizes are less than 6 students. I'm wondering what processes can actually be available for students to meet on campus, because most of the postgraduate students that I know, especially fellow international students that have come, We don't have much access to buildings on campus or study labs or spaces, regardless of the fact that the university received grant money and spent time planning and building one way and designating maximum for rooms. So I'm wondering what we can do in order to make spaces on campus more accessible to students. And then I've also been noticing here in Canterbury that obviously being an old city, being a space of multi-time growth, some kinds of internet is more reliable in certain parts of town than others, and a significant portion of postgraduate students do live off campus. I happen to live in an area of town that has metered connection where the maximum megabytes per second I can get here is about 30, which is not very workable when there's 4 postgraduate students all on teams for online learning together. So I'm wondering if the university has any support options to help students that are having to log in online from off campus, such as maybe for a nominal cost or a cost off with Vodafone or another program providing internet sticks that operate off of another form of Ethernet or internet connection, and just being aware of ways in which we can all be a little bit more malleable and also make it the best learning opportunity where we all feel like our dollar is well valued. I'm sorry, pound. I'm American.
Do you want someone to quickly follow up on that one, Vicky or Pat?
Yes, although with this being my first meeting and just arriving in September, I'm not exactly sure who can or is best.
Either or Pat, yeah, do your hand up first.
I'm happy to take this up actually. Firstly, I say with regard to sort of study on campus, there are options actually. So there is the Senate, there's various study hubs. One of the things I'm working on this year is putting together sort of a postgrad study map, because you'll find that a lot of schools even have sort of areas which are designated for postgrads to use. They're just not very good at publicising it, basically. There's the Graduate School Common Room in Cornwallis, for example. There's one in Jarman. There's a Senate building, all of which you can use. So I'll speed up on that project effectively, because it seems it's something that's in high demand. The other thing is something that me and Vicky worked on as part of our meetings over the summer is we've managed to get seminar room availability better effectively. So now if you go to any seminar room on campus in any school or building, you'll see a QR code on the door. And what that will do is it will tell you when that room is actually in use. So you know that you could study in there undisturbed for X amount of hours, which obviously is also really useful for group projects. You can essentially socially distance while you work. With regard to getting more blended learning, more in-person stuff, I would say bring up with your lecturers in your schools. So I am still doing a part-time master's in sociology, and my lectures moved from online to being in person purely because my lecturer said, look, there's space in the schools, the rooms aren't being used. I can try and find some space for you. Would you like that? We all said yes, please, and he was able to do it. So I would say your first port of call for doing that is speaking to your lecturers and going through the schools. Because with university policies, it'll be a slow process. But chances are, if you and your course mates say, look, if we just have 1 or 2 of these in person, it would make it so much better. The experience would be better. The chances are there is space on campus that you could use. It's, like you said, especially if there's only 6 of you on the course. With regard to off-campus internet, at risk of sending off alarm bells, the university does seem to be quite enjoying online learning, and if that is the case, therefore moving forwards, you're absolutely right. The university does need to do more in order to facilitate that, and everyone knows that the internet in Canterbury is, for want of a better word, shit. So I think a bit of creative thinking is needed, and your suggestion of sort of using mobile network providers, they often have like EE internet, don't they, sort of thing, which uses 4G, would be probably very effective unless you live within 100 yards of a cathedral, like myself. But I think that's definitely the kind of thing we could look at moving forwards, is either setting up a fund for that or, on a corporate level almost. Perhaps something me and Vicky could bring up with information services, because, like you said, you're likely to get a better deal from this. The other thing, or the only final thing I would say is obviously there is still the Access to Learning Fund. So if you if you do feel like it really is inhibiting your ability to take part in your university experience, I would suggest sort of like an application through that. It's a really quite simple process, and you could use that to get a bit of stuff. So yeah, I hope that answers some of your questions.
Yes, quick follow-up that you may or may not have the answer to. I'm wondering, the Access to Learning Fund, I'm assuming maybe the International Student Chair, if they're still here, could answer this. Are international students on the Tier 4 allowed access to that? Because I know that technically our Tier 4 stops us from being able to access public funds, but I don't know if that counts as public funds.
Pat, do you want to do a brief follow-up on that?
That is an excellent question. I'm going to quickly see if I can look
Yeah,
up an answer to.
I'm representing the international network, and I'm also on a Tier 4 visa. So I do know that we're prevented from having public funds. The university ones don't count as public funds, however, Kent has specifically prohibited from Tier 4 students from accessing the fund. So we don't have access to the fund. No, we do have access. They've got a temporary emergency fund, but it's in the form of a loan, which you have to pay back, and it can only be used for like emergencies, like you're going to lose like where you're living or you don't have money for food, and then you do have to pay it back. So we don't have any kind of access. I don't know about the COVID-19 fund, but I know the Access to Learning Fund is not open to us now.
Thank you. That sucks, but thank you.
Thanks for providing some clarity on that, Sebastian. It's also the kind of thing me and Aisha could maybe query the university on as to why that is, and try to get some clarity. And yeah, obviously, Ria's just put a good point in the chat as well. Speak to student reps whenever you can, because they're very handy and they speak to us a lot. Yeah, so thank you.
Cheers, Pat. Aisha, was this related to Rachel's point?
Yeah, so if I may, there is a European financial support and international hardship fund where you can access support, but these cannot be used to meet your tuition fees, but you can certainly use them if you're struggling with your general maintenance and living costs.
Brilliant. Does that answer all your questions, Rachel?
Yes, thank you. And sorry for the railroad.
Fantastic. No, that's great. Thank you to the officers also for your answers. Hamish.
Oh, yep. So hiya. Pretty much my question is essentially some of the lecture recordings, this is going to sound slightly petty, has been a bit irregular in terms of like how long they are. So sometimes I have lectures which are like an hour and a half, which is a little bit long. I'm not saying like the lecture was good, I'm just saying it was a bit long personally. And then some being like an hour and 10 minutes, and then some being like 50 minutes. So I was just wondering, should I go to my lecturer to kind of say that they're a bit irregular, or should I say this to you directly? So yeah, that's my kind of bit petty thing, but yeah.
Vicky.
I love the pettiness, don't worry. But in terms of that, the guidance to lecturers was given that any lectures over an hour should be split into smaller chunks, so that it can be dealt with. Like obviously people have different internet speeds and people have different accessibility needs, so it was supposed to help in that in all aspects. If they're not, I'd suggest going to your module convener. I'll add it to my list of feedback that will go hopefully back into the training that lecturers are given, because I do think that that's probably, it's not actually that petty of an issue. The inconsistency is really difficult, and it's more difficult to schedule in a 2-hour long lecture than it is to do 3 sort of half-hour ones.
Oh, completely. Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Correct.
Brilliant. Abby.
Hiya. So I'm also a student rep for my course, and I just wanted just to say, like, now more than ever, a lot of people are asking for extensions on their deadlines. So we've got something coming up and everyone is panicking because they don't have the right resources, and obviously lecturers are under immense pressure to answer emails within 3 to 4 like working days. And obviously because it makes it harder now not having that personal aspect to go find a lecturer in their rooms or even seminar leaders. So yeah, I was wondering about that, because obviously it's reflected in the stats that you guys released on the Kent Union website, like on your Facebook page, with people's like satisfaction with their learning. It was 28%, and so I just wanted to know like what more infrastructure is going to be put in place for that, because I have a lot of panicky people who keep asking, because there's so much like, I can't think of the word now. People are unsure about what's happening constantly, but being in like second year, it's a struggle because it counts now from that point of view, if that makes sense. So that's for anyone.
Anyone want to pick that up?
I don't necessarily have a response to that. I think the university are very aware that there is not enough support in place for students at the minute. And the obvious route to go down is the academic advisor system. So if you are feeling panicky or concerned about deadlines, talk to your academic advisor. But I think this is something like massively serious that is probably going to be my priority to raise with the university, because there isn't the support there necessarily, especially around deadlines and things like that. And so thank you very much for raising it, and take it on.
Perfect, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. Paul George.
Yeah, just about the online learning things. I just wanted to ask if there's any option to give out like additional advice to lecturers and seminar leaders, for example, to maybe use Microsoft Teams or Google Meets instead of Zoom, because the automated captions are better. And yeah, in case there are any images that describe them for like the visually impaired or blind students, and you know, the caption of course for the deaf students or the hard of hearing students. And in addition to that, if there's any option that, because someone just called me a couple of days ago and was telling me that they got called out for by their seminar leader for having their screen turned off or like their video turned off, and I feel like in particular for students that have like anxiety or other things in that relation, I just would prefer to have their camera turned off and just contact the lecturer directly over direct messaging, or just use the chat or something. I think it shouldn't be like they should be forced to have their video turned on if they don't want to.
Okay, anyone want to follow up on that? Pat?
Yeah, I can certainly comment on the last point. I would say that that's A, unacceptable for that to be asked of a student, and B, it's not something that's actually a TAL university policy. So it's something we spoke about a little bit with university staff in recent boards, and they've all agreed that they understand the reasons why cameras might not be on. So I guess my point is that nobody is pressuring seminar leaders or lecturers to ask that, effectively. So if that's being asked, it's coming off on the volition of the lecturer or the seminar leader. But it's definitely something that we can feed back in and sort of maybe get some comms out to staff and GTAs, just as a reminder that, although it can be frustrating, maybe make it a bit more of a sort of optional approach. Like, if you can please turn your cameras on, that'd be great. But if not, we understand. But yeah, I can only apologise for that.
No, that sounds fair.
Aldo, did you have anything to add on that?
I was going to say that careers and employability, it's been highlighted by them that a need for a sort of code of practice or etiquette for lecturers in particular when using Microsoft Teams is definitely something that needs to be put on either as a workshop for them or something that needs to just be generally shared. So I will be sure to follow that up in my meetings with them. Because as Pat said, it is wildly unacceptable.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Paul George, for sharing that. Rachel, did you have any further points, or is your hand left up?
Sorry, I left my hand up while I was typing furiously.
No, it's all right. Brilliant, and Paul George happy with that. Cool. Okie dokie. Was there any other points anyone wants to make on? Oh, Abby.
Sorry, just to follow up on Paul's point. So with transgender students, in some cases their dead name is being used on Microsoft Teams and they are unable to change it, and they're being called their dead names. And I saw both of you put your hands up straight away. I just wanted just to put it out there that this is upsetting a lot of students apparently, and they've talked to their lecturers before about it and they're not stopping. So just a thing. So yeah.
Okay, Vicky.
Yeah, I don't know if Aisha's about to say the same thing, but and I'm so sorry that it's coming a bit too late, because it should have been sorted for the beginning of term, but it has been made a priority now. The system is being put in place whereby students should be able to go into their SDS and change their own names, and it will come up as that on Teams, so that they can put in their preferred name. For whatever reason, students can have a preferred name. They can put that in, and then it will come up on MS Teams as sort of where your name is underneath, so that in theory, if lecturers are relying on that, then they'll be able to refer to whatever name is possible. I know that doesn't fix all problems, because some lecturers are just not good enough on that aspect, and I know that it is a really difficult conversation to have, and we've raised it about 2 or 3 times now to the university, and obviously it's not quite getting through somehow. I'm happy to continue having that conversation for as long as lecturers aren't understanding it, and I will try and get the university to push through the SDS changes as quickly as possible.
Perfect, thank you.
Sure.
Aisha?
Yeah, that's brilliant. And in the meantime, they can email csao@kent.ac.uk, and I'll put that in the chat as well. And if they basically just email and say, hi, I would really like for you to put my preferred name on SDS and on Microsoft Teams, then that would be able to go through. And that includes students on Tier 4. But if it's a degree certificate change, then that will still have to be done legally. So this is just something that we're doing on SDS and Teams.
Cool, thanks.
Brilliant. Sebastian?
I actually just wanted to follow up. I know this is supposed to be a conversation around, obviously, value for money and whatnot. But while we're on the topic, I'm the other member of the LGBT network, and actually one of the things we wanted to get in touch in the next few weeks about this particular issue, but we weren't actually sure which particular officer or contact we had for LGBT issues to kind of bring up things to discuss. So just briefly, while we're on the topic, who's the best person to reach out to and get a meeting for LGBT issues?
Is there any officer who wants to pick that up?
Technically, it sits under Aisha's remit. Sorry, Aisha, to throw that one on you. But obviously, if you've got a problem or an issue or a complaint or a campaign that you want to work on, you can contact any of us, and we're more than happy to help out.
Okay. Is there like a specific officer that has been designated for LGBT issues, or one that maybe is more well versed that wants to specifically take it, or is it just we should kind of pick an officer and email about it?
So I'm the officer lead for the LGBT network. I just haven't had a meeting with you yet, I'm afraid. It's been a bit chock-a-block. So definitely that's something we can work on, and hopefully I can meet with you and Abby in the next few weeks.
Perfect, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, because I know this is like the value for money, but I figured while the topic was up anyway, I may as well just ask while we're here.
No, thank you for raising that, Sebastian. Aldo, is there a point?
Just to supplement, officers are supposed to have like a tete-a-tete or like an introduction or induction with the relevant networks, and we were conscious not to do it too soon because we understand that you have an information bombardment at the moment with all of the new stuff you have in your new roles, as well as your academics and studies as well. So apologies if it seems slow or.
No, I'm sorry, doesn't seem slow at all, so don't worry. Just kind of figured while we're on the topic, I could ask who the person was, but definitely I understand everyone's so busy at this time of year, and especially with COVID-19, and I do appreciate the not wanting to bombard us. So yeah, don't worry, definitely doesn't seem like you guys are neglecting networks or whatever. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay, so just in the interest of time, I'll just draw the discussion to a close there. And then before we look to end the meeting, is there any other business anyone wants to raise at all? Any final pressing questions that might not have been asked or anything? Yes, I see one hand, go for it.
Yeah, so I'm the International Network Chair, and we had a Lebanese student approach us, and it seems that there are some restrictions after the recent blast in the capital, that they're not able to withdraw more than £10,000 per year. And since they're international students, the fees itself, the accommodation is 7K, and for the tuition fees, they have to pay another 16. So, and since the International Hardship Fund wouldn't cover the tuition fees, I wanted to know, is there anything that could help the Lebanese students to pay the fees, or possibly at least break their fee structure into 3 different years?
Is there anyone you want to particularly pick up that question, or are you happy for anyone?
I'm happy if anyone responds to it.
Okay. Any officer who wants to input on that?
So sorry, can you just clarify a little bit? So there's a limit on how much they can transfer out of their accounts as a result.
Yeah. As of now, they can't transfer more than £10,000 in foreign exchange. But the fees itself would roughly be around £24,000, including the accommodation and the international tuition fee rate.
Sure. Okay, I understand. Ramsey, do you want to make a quick contribution?
Sorry, I'm be part of this conversation as a Lebanese. Just to clarify, so there has been a limitation on what Lebanese accounts can actually withdraw out of banks due to the economic crisis. So we cannot, no one can send money out of Lebanon an amount that is more than $10,000 not even £10,000, which is less than £10,000. And to be honest, I've never thought about this, but if we can, I mean, I know there's many Lebanese students who are currently at Kent this year, and I'm sure that I heard there was a Lebanese society that was about to start. So it might be interesting and helpful if there could be some sort of plan with the university that would give Lebanese students, due to this legal problem, an opportunity to actually pay their fees beyond 1 year or 3 or whatever. I mean, this might not be even a post-grad problem. This might be an undergrad problem or a PhD problem. So I don't know if we can consider something like this. Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, because we do have quite regular meetings with the finance teams at the university. We have been recently. It certainly seems, I think oftentimes the university don't always get, or aren't always made aware of problems on the ground, and it's only when they hear about it through sort of things like this or through us that they're able to take action. So I'm sure if we bring something forward there, we'll be able to sort of get something in place. So I will make a note of that, and I'm happy to take this up with the university. I see Vicky's raised her hand as well.
Yeah, Vicky.
Yeah, I was just going to say that if specific students are really struggling with this or having problems with their finances, please get in touch with our advice centre. They're more than happy to help and go through obviously the personal issues with this. I know obviously this is part of a much larger problem, and as Pat said, happy to raise this with the university. But I think in the time being, if students are really struggling, then get in contact with our advice centre so that they can help out as soon as possible.
Brilliant. Does that answer your question?
Yep. And I will be hopefully in contact with them, so I think I'm satisfied as of now.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I know we're meeting later in, or next week, Mahesh, so we'll have a chat with them about it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Mahesh.
Perfect.
Any other business before we close the meeting? No. Okay, so with that, we'll end the meeting there. So thank you all very much for coming tonight. It was great to kind of hear all of the discussions which have been going on, and even in the online environment, things are still going ahead. So brilliant. So thank you all for taking part. And I believe, Tom, is there any final wrap up you want to give?
No, there's nothing in particular else that has to be covered at all. So unless anyone has any other particular questions or comments about literally anything to do with what Kent Union's working on at the moment, not necessarily just officers, but anything that we're doing or working on at the moment, or that the officers should be aware of or working on, yeah, just feel free to kind of either comment in the chat, let us know now, or just get in touch with us online. So yeah, that's everything.
Brilliant, thank you. So with that, we will end the meeting there. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you, Connor.
Thank you.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.